Hey everybody, and welcome back to Fed News, the September to October edition. That's right, five minor shows, four major shows, and one pay-per-view. Let's get started. So in wrestling news, the Dudley Boys are in talk with UWA Developmental. Ethan Page is also in talks with AEW. However, Barry Horowitz has signed with the UWA Developmental, so stay tuned to see when he will make his debut. Of course, there's no guarantee that he will debut anytime soon, but he has signed on to go to the training camp. As always, new rules. So week one, we start out with Velocity as Luke Gallows and Simon Dean in a time limit draw. This was a huge month-long tournament to crown the UWA International Champion. So unfortunately, both men would knock each other out of the tournament with a time limit draw. Giant Gonzalez would defeat Carl Anderson by pinfall to advance, and the main event would see Shinsuke Nakamura defeat Chris Candido by pinfall to advance. Over to Superstars though, and they announced that Jericho versus Yokozuna will feud for the UWA World Title at SummerSlam. Both men actually are undefeated in singles competition, so it's going to be a undefeated versus undefeated streak. Both people, I believe Jericho's at 6-1, and Yoko's at 6-1, but technically their losses were from the Battle Bowl, and so it was only elimination. This is actually singles one-on-one pin. Neither man's been pinned. Let's put it that way. A-Train would go on to defeat Sylvan. As also, again, Superstars would decide to hold a 16-man tournament as well to crown the UWA United States Champion at the next pay-per-view SummerSlam. So, A-Train would defeat Sylvan to advance, Nathan Jones defeat Larry Zbyszko to advance, Bob Backlund and Doink the Clown ended in a time limit draw, again an only 10-minute match, time limit allowed. Cody Rhodes defeat X-Pac by pinfall to advance. The main event would see John Morrison defeat Marty Jannetty by pinfall. This was not a number one contendership. This was not for the tournament. This is actually for the number one contendership toward the Intercontinental title, which John Morrison has now gained an opportunity to face him at the pay-per-view. Over to week two now, as Owen Hart defeated Reggie to advance by submission. Cesaro defeats Justin Gabriel by pinfall to advance. And The Fiend defeats Don Morocco by pinfall to advance. Don Morocco now falling to 0-6 on that card. Over to Superstars, though, as Braun Breaker would advance by beating Brian Pillman, Randy Rose defeats Darren Young to advance, Dennis Connery defeats Jerry Lynn to advance, and Heath Slater defeats William Regal by submission to advance. The main event would see the Usos defeat the Nasty Boys, Rock and Roll Express, and Gemini by pinfall. Over to week three now, as Velocity would take place, as Batista would defeat Spike Dudley. However, Spike would suffer an injury, so hopefully he's okay. We'll find out later on. Justin Gabriel defeats Luke Gallows by pinfall. The main event would see Roddy Piper defeat Macho Man Randy Savage by pinfall to advance in that tournament. Over to Superstars as Nathan Jones defeats A-Train by pinfall. Braun Breaker defeats Cody Rhodes, William Regal, and A-Train by pinfall. And Dennis Connery defeats Heath Slater by pinfall. And the Rock and Roll Express defeats Nasty Boys and Gemini by pinfall. And Spike Dudley will be out for 3 months with injury. The main event would see the Usos defeat LOD by pinfall. Week four, though, as Shinsuke Nakamura defeats Owen Hart by pinfall. The Fiend defeats Cesaro by pinfall. The main event would see Batista defeat Roddy Piper by pinfall, all advancing in their tournaments. Over to SummerSlam, though, as Larry Zbyszko, or not SummerSlam, but Superstars, Larry Z would defeat Doink the Clown by pinfall. Jerry Lynn defeats Sylvan by pinfall. And a match was announced for SummerSlam for the light heavyweight title. It would be between X-Pac, Brian Pillman, and Jerry Lynn. Braun Breaker defeats Dennis Connery by pinfall, and William Regal defeats Darren Young by pinfall. The main event would see Cody Rhodes defeat Nathan Jones, upsetting Nathan Jones by pinfall to advance to the finals. The match card looks like this. It was John Morrison versus Marty Jannetty for the IC title. William Regal would face Larry Zbyszko. Brian Pillman versus Jerry Lynn versus X-Pac for the crowning of the light heavyweight champion. The Usos would face the champions LOD in a tag title match. And Bob Backlund versus Nathan Jones in a singles competition. And Cody Rhodes versus Braun Breaker to crown the U.S. title. The main event would see the unpinned Chris Jericho versus the unpinned Yokozuna for the world title. Over to Velocity SummerSlam as Shinsuke Nakamura defeated Giant Gonzalez by countout. The Fiend would defeat Batista by pinfall. Norman Smiley actually picked up a victory over Johnny Gargano, Simon Diamond, and Titus O'Neil by pinfall. This came after all four men were absent the entire month, kind of getting a chance to appear on the show before the pay-per-view. And Shinsuke would win the international title by defeating the Fiend in the main event of Velocity the pre-show for the title. Over to SummerSlam, though, as John Morrison defeats Margin to win and become the new Intercontinental Champion. William Regal and Larry Zbyszko ends in a time limit draw. Brian Pillman defeats X-Pac and Jerry Lynn by pinfall to win the light heavyweight title. LOD defeats the Usos by pinfall to retain their tag titles. Nathan Jones and Bob Backlund also ended in a time limit draw. And Cody Rhodes defeats Braun Breaker to become the first UWA United States Champion. And in the main event, Yokozuna would defeat Chris Jericho and remain unbeaten in pinfalls competitions and become the new UWA World Heavyweight Champion. So here are the champions now. You've got Yoko there now at the top. Brian Pillman added. LOD retained, the only team that actually retained their belts, and Shinsuke over on the Velocity brand representing the International Championship. That's all for this week. Hope you enjoyed. Tune in next week to find out who will become the number one contender towards Yoko's title. Also, the planned television tournament will start taking place, as well as what will happen on Velocity. Remember, the rules are that the international title, the hardcore title, and the television title are only defended on Velocity, and so Shinsuke will be defending at least twice, potentially twice, his international title, as every 2 weeks he must defend his title. So stay tuned for more. Till next time.